Welcome, everybody. It is May 11th, 2021, and we're recording live today from our Jerusalem headquarters. This is Yoel Kortick, Senior Librarian at LIbris, and we have next to us here Mr. Daniel Greenberg from Alma Product Management, specializing in, among many other areas, Alma Digital. And we're going to be discussing today the new Alma Viewer. We'll be dividing today's session into two parts. The first part will be an overall demo of the new Alma Viewer, showing three particular new features that exist in the new Alma Viewer. Then we're going to turn this over to Daniel, who will talk about configuring the new Alma Viewer. Those of you who have never seen the Primo Studio will get a glimpse at the Primo Studio, because that is the way we can customize the new Alma Viewer, one of the ways. So without further ado, let's begin. First of all, the two presentations that we'll be showing today, we're going to show very briefly the presentations, but as is our custom, the majority of the day of the session will be live Alma. Also, actually, the majority of the day is live Alma here. But in any case, the presentations that relate to what we'll be showing are on this page that I'm at now, and I will be sending the link right now to this page. You all have it. No, I sent that to the host. I'm going to send this to all attendees. Okay, now you've all got it. So we've got the new Alma Viewer here, and we've got customizing the new Alma Viewer. I'll be beginning with the new Alma Viewer. Then we're going to turn it over to Daniel for customizing the new Alma Viewer. If you have a question or a comment, feel free to send it in the chat, and either on the spot we'll answer it, or at some later stage during the session when there's a break between sections. Okay, so the new Alma Viewer. Before we even begin, I want to show what is an Alma Viewer, because when we first sent out the invitation, perhaps we could have been more specific, point taken, as to who would be the relevant audience for this. People asked about it. So obviously the term Alma Viewer is not something in the consciousness of all people. So let's talk about it. When we have a digital file, now a digital file can be a video, it can be music, it can be an image. In fact, let's start with an image. So if I look, let's go into Primo and look. If I go in, okay, I'm already at this Prunus dulcis, which is Latin for almond tree. And if I go look at this, and it's Alma Digital, and I'm logged in as a user who has access to it, or I'm a guest and the object is not limited to a logged in user, then we have here the Alma Viewer. When we click the Alma Viewer, we can view the image. And the image might be an image like this, or the image might be a video, or who knows what. So if I say, for example, flipping, I know there's a couple of videos here with the word flipping. So if I take one of these videos and I say available online, and I go again to the Alma Viewer. So here we've got a link to the Alma Viewer. Here it is, view online. So this is going to open the Alma Viewer, like when we saw the almond tree a moment ago. And instead of seeing the actual image, now we see a video, and inside the Alma Viewer, the video plays. So that's the Alma Viewer. Now, we're talking about today the new Alma Viewer. And let's go take, that's a nice looking piece of steak, isn't it? But that's not the topic of our discussion. To enable this new Alma Viewer that we're looking at right now, this and this, and we'll talk about the features in it in a moment. But in order to enable that this new Alma Viewer will be the viewer, in Alma, we go to Configuration and to Fulfillment and to discovery interface display logic, and to viewer services. And then we have 3 viewers here, which we've showed in the past, by the way. And for Alma Viewer, in order to use the new Alma Viewer, there's a checkbox, Use New Viewer. By the way, we're going to talk about this hide full text. Question came up on it on this morning's session. And that, what I just mentioned right now, is, of course, in this PowerPoint, in the section configuration. So this is just a little introduction. March 2020, this came out 2 months ago, or actually a month, 11 days ago. And in the end of 2020, December 31st, the old Alma Viewer will be deprecated. So the configuration that we just showed, it's a very simple configuration. It's what I just did, navigating to the new Alma Viewer, and then selecting Use New Viewer. Now, let's go through, before we turn this over to Daniel, who will show some configurations of changing the style and look and feel, as they call it, of the new Alma Viewer. I'd like to discuss 3 features and not begin with creating full text. We'll use that one at the end. And let's say quick access. So the quick access is that when somebody is viewing a record in Discovery, rather than needing to click the link to the new Alma Viewer, which I did in both of the cases now, the new Alma Viewer already appears embedded inside the display of the record. Let's see what we mean. So here, that's already on my screen. Instead of needing to click here for Alma Viewer, because if I do click like that, the link to the Alma Viewer, then it opens up and then I can use it like we saw a moment ago. However, and let's take a different record just so we refresh the system and you'll see how it behaves under different circumstances. Let me just move this over. I always have issues. I always have issues with the WebEx bar covering my tabs of my browser. Okay, so here's flipping. And let's say flipping Friday. Then we'll really have some nice examples. Okay, flipping schnitzels Friday afternoon. So if I click here, instead of needing to go and click here, the link to the Alma Viewer, it already appears right here embedded inside the view. So I've got the title, I've got my link to the available online. On the bottom, I've got the bibliographic details. And right at the beginning here, I've got the quick access. So there's no need for the end user to go click Alma Viewer. And even more than that, he might just go quickly through, or she might go quickly through, but here she or he's got it. And from this quick access, we can play the video directly here without needing to go into the Alma Viewer. It's unfortunate that the noise doesn't go through into the WebEx, but there's a nice sizzling going on with that. Also from here, we can download either the MP4, if it's an MP4, or an audio file, or a JPG, a PNG, whatever the file is, it can be downloaded from here. And also we can click here, which would open it in a new tab, which essentially is like clicking on the Alma Viewer. And more than that, if I would have something with multiple files, for example, Susan B. Anthony. So the digital representation for Susan B. Anthony has 2 images. So if we go there, it will appear here in the new Alma Viewer, in the quick access. And if I click here, I can navigate back and forth between the different images in the representation. So that's the quick access. It appears directly in the record results. It eliminates the need for the end user to click on the link to the Alma Viewer. It enables the user to download the file. Directly from here, she or he can open in a new tab, which is like clicking the link to the Alma Viewer. And that covers the quick access in Primo. Before we move on to the next topic, which is the shared focus file, are there any questions or comments on the quick access of the new Alma Viewer? I'm going to go take a look at the chat and see what's going on here. I don't see any questions there in the chat. So I will assume everybody hears me fine and just doesn't have a question. Oh, somebody says love it. Great. Glad you like it.
Yoel?
Yes, Daniel.
Yeah, I can see two questions here. I don't know if they were sent directly to me, but
okay.
I'll read them out. The first question is the Alma Viewer included with subscriptions, or is it an add-on and an additional cost? So I'll respond to that. Alma Digital in general requires a specific subscription for Alma Digital. It is open. I mean, it isn't blocked, which means that any customer can play around with it and check it out on their sandbox with some test data and so on. But for proper ongoing usage on production, then that would require additional cost. The new Alma Viewer specifically isn't an additional service. It's bundled with Alma Digital. The next question is, what length of video is able to be hosted? So any length, really, there's no limitation. The only limitation is the storage allowance, which to convert your videos over to a streaming format, HLS, which makes it much more efficient to deliver very large videos. The next question is, can this be done with other viewers or only Alma Viewer? So the quick access is currently available only for the Alma Viewer. It could be that in Primo specifically you have ways of connecting with IIIF and so on, but from our point of view, the support is for the new Alma Viewer. That's it.
Okay. Somebody else asks, are you working on support for captions?
Yes, that's a good question, and there have been quite a few requests coming through on that. That's going to be coming through in probably around Q1 2022.
Q1 22. Okay, so January, February, March 2022. Look out for support for captions. All right, thank you, Daniel. So let's move on now to our next topic, which is the shared focus file. And let's just, instead of explaining it, let's jump right in and see what's going to happen here. I'm going to do a search for Gloria Steinem. And I've got a record here, which has a representation that has 5 images. Let's go take a look at that. I'm going to go into the link directly to the Alma Viewer. Here I've got it for the representation that has 5 files and the representation that has 1 file. And if I click on the one that has 5 files, then I see the images and I can scroll through them as desired. And if there's one particular image that I want to make a link to, I can do that. But let's see what's going to happen here. If I click up here to share the file, and now let's say I'm focused on this one, Gloria Steinem Life Magazine, and I click here, I'm not going to click this new feature, share focused file. I'm just going to click copy URL. And then if I go to a new browser and I paste that into the new browser, I get to the first record in the representation because I did not select share focused file. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm starting now in the same file, the one here, Life Magazine. Again, I'm going to share, but this time I'm going to click the box, Share Focused File, then Copy URL. And now I'm going to paste that. And now it goes directly to that file that I started on when I clicked Share Focused File. How did that happen? If you notice, the URL that I'm in now ends here with hashtag 133808, etc., etc. And the one that I got when I first clicked without the shared focus file ends with language equals EN. This adding the hashtag or the number sign and then the number is what makes it go directly to that image. And by the way, if somebody were interested in building their own URL or just general interest saying, hey, how did that happen? Let's take a look at that number that appears at the end. If I search here by digital files, boom. And again, Gloria. So every file has a file ID. See these file IDs? So that file ID is what makes it automatically linked to something specific. For example, this one here I'm going to take now. And if I just take this number here, file ID, and I put that at the end of the URL, boom. Then, let me refresh that. Okay. It'll bring that image. Now I got this image. Every time it brings the image of whatever I've got up here. So that's the file ID. And that's the shared focus file. It goes directly to the file that is from the shared focus file. I'm going to do it one more time on a different record. Let's say I'm here now and I share focus file is checked. I copy the URL, so now I should get the one with the typewriter to her back left, leaning over the back of a chair, and paste that in. And sure enough, there we go. I get directly to the focused file. So that's the share focused file. It allows the end user to get a URL directly to a specific image rather than a link to the whole level of the representation. Let's see if there's any questions or comments on that before I go into the next one. I don't see any questions. Daniel, did you get any questions? Oh, there we go. Someone asks, you know what, I'm going to take this. I've been doing the questions in a slightly different format here. Oh, you don't want to see that file new. So that everybody can see them. Now, don't worry, we never put someone's names, so you can write whatever you want. So here's the question. I would love our patrons to be able to share links, but we've never been able to get authentication to work. They have always had to be signed into Primo before being able to view materials. Is that expected behavior? That's possible selected behavior, but not mandatory selected behavior. There's a setup to be able to view as a guest. There's a setup to be able to view only if you're logged in. Within the scope of this session, I would recommend that you open a Salesforce case for it, but an answer to that is that's possible desired behavior, but it's not exclusive behavior. You can set up the system like I'm using now that a non-signed in user can view digital images. Daniel, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
And you also have a sign-in option from the actual viewer itself, regardless of Primo.
Okay, so that's that. Now, let's go on to the next one, which is full text. And let me just make a new this. Okay, great. Because I'm going to take a picture now. So let me close some of this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and that I'll leave. Okay. So let's take a look at something that has a PDF. Shoulders of Giants. And I'll start on the level of the digital title and drill down to the representation and to the Files tab. And let's say shoulders in plural. Okay, and let's go to the representations. So I have here, just to show what I've got here, if I do view or deliver, I will have a PDF. And the PDF has text in it, as do many PDFs. And here's the PDF, and here's the text. Now notice, I see someone's playing around with this. Okay. Now notice here, I'm going to take a picture. Notice that this section here right now, where I'm about to put this, I see you see a picture of me there, because that was a part of the WebEx. Here it's empty. Now, because that's where some of the full text is going to display in a minute. So that's why I'm pointing out that if right now it's empty. So let's go take a look. If we come back to Alma, and inside the file list, I'm in the representation, and let me edit the representation, and let me go to the file list. So here I'm going to go to the full text, and I'm going to generate full text. Now, full text can be generated at least 3 ways. One way is to do the extract, and that will extract the full text from that PDF, and I'll do that now. Okay. Another way is, let me do full text again. Another way would be to put a file here and to go upload and click a file, upload a file of text. And another way, did I do extract already? I'll just do it again just in case. Okay. Another way to do it would be through a set. In fact, let's do it from a set. I'm going to take the Shoulders of Giants and save the query. Shoulders, that'll be enough. So it's also possible to run a job to create the full text for all of those, for all files in the set. For example, I'll say admin run a job. And then I would say, give me the job, which is extract full text. And then I could run this on a set of digital files. I did digital titles, but I would choose any of these sets. And overwrite provided if I already have the full text and I want to run it again, and then next, and that would create the full text on all records in the set, rather than one by one. Now, if I come again to Shoulders of Giants and view it, here we are. So now, you see I do have full text here. I'm going to go back to the picture. You see I have title, creation date, contents, and then I have full text. Before I created the full text, I had title, creation, contents, and no full text. So the full text was added when I did that extract full text. And I can search in Primo by this full text. For example, I'll take this string here, just so I've got some text. So if I search now in Primo for that text, I should find, perhaps among others, but at least this record here that has the full text. Some reflections, though it's probably going to take a moment or two by the time it gets all, there we go. Here it is. So that is included in the full text, in the search options. And somebody sent in another question. Let me just put this out to Word and see what's happening here. Where is the Word? Okay, so here we got another question. Can you demonstrate the full text indication in Alma? I haven't been able to make it work recently. Let's, for this scope of this, I really don't like when I need to do this, but we haven't even begun the actual configurations of the editors, so let's wait. Sorry, but perhaps we'll have a follow-up session or something, or time at the end, but let's wait because I want to make sure we have at least a half hour for the configuration that Daniel's going to show, the Primo Studio that it's done in, and then questions on that. Okay, thanks for your understanding. Okay, so if there's no other questions, Daniel, I'm going to turn it over to you. I will stop sharing. I will make you the presenter, and take it away, Daniel.
Thank you, Yoel. Let's turn on my video, my screen. I'll just quickly relate to a question that came through regarding the share options. Is WhatsApp the only share option besides copy URL, or is that something users configure individually? So there is a configuration. It's right here. It's called the viewer search options, and here you can enable or disable any one of these social shares which you desire.
See, we got Telegram even, huh?
Okay, so customizing the new Alma Viewer. So what is our motivation? One of the big benefits of transitioning the Alma Viewer, the new Alma Viewer, over to it's basically a Primo V infrastructure. It doesn't require, of course, Primo VE, but it is on the Angular infrastructure. It allows customers to control the CSS and customize it and create a design, however they prefer. And generally, the customers or the end user behavior is where they come through Primo, the discovery of Primo, search for the object, they find it, and then view the actual files. So the institutions, they typically would rather have a streamlined UX coming from Primo, from the discovery into the delivery. And now that you can customize a viewer, you can provide exactly the same look and feel in the viewer as the end users, the patrons would have in Primo in the discovery. So that's really the motivation. And regardless, sometimes you'd like flexibility to remove some elements on the screen. Some don't want to have the sign in option for some reason, and other elements on the screen. So we'll show today several examples of how to customize some of the elements. It's just a sample. Basically, you really have full flexibility over the CSS, and it also doesn't necessarily have to be via Primo Studio, but that's of course an easy tool to use. Also, we won't be going into all the bits and bytes of Primo Studio. It's well documented, and if you do have specific questions about various elements in the screen which you want to configure, then of course you can reach out and we'll pull in the Primo experts. So the high-level flow here, in order to customize the viewer, is first of all opening the viewer in Primo Studio, making the designs, changing the design according to your desire, and then really signing it off after you approve of the changes. And once you're satisfied with the result, you can then download the package, which is a zip file, over to your PC. Until that point, basically, there are no permanent changes done. It's simply you have the package ready, and then you can go back to Alma and upload the package which you just downloaded, upload that over to the relevant view in Primo. And once that is saved there as part of the view definition configuration, then it's a permanent change done to any viewers open on that view. So a bit more detailed steps, which also will show in a minute, we'll show in live. So first of all, we want to open Primo Studio, but we need, of course, a sample representation on which we want to run the customization. So for this, we would want to choose a representative content. Of course, you can test it on different types, but you would really want to have, for example, a representation which has multiple files of different types and so on, something which you know that if you're satisfied with the result of the design of that representation, you'll probably be satisfied with all the remaining content in the institution. So in order to open the, I'll show it already here. The first step, as I said, is selecting a sample representation. For this, you need to go to the representation list under the digital title. And there are different areas where you can see the representation ID. In any one of them, you can copy the representation ID. And then once you have the representation ID on your clipboard, you then want to go and open the, open Primo Studio for that specific representation, which we copied the representation ID for. So the steps are, first of all, selecting the Primo view, which you want to configure the viewer for. Paste in the representation ID, which we selected to be the representative content or record. Once we have that populated, we generate the link, which will then create a link for Primo Studio. And then once you select Open Primo Studio, it will then open the studio on that with a deep link to the representation which you want to customize. So here you are. This is what the Primo Studio, which some of you might be familiar with this look and feel. And those of you who are also familiar with Primo Studio already should have an easy time to continue the same configuration experience that you have also with the viewer. So there's nothing really new from this from the technical aspect. And here we'll just show examples also in the slides and also in real life. We'll show two examples. In one of them, we're going to change the color of the header. And we will also remove an element. We'll remove the contents icon. You can see here we have an option to toggle between thumbnail view and list view. That's also a feature of the new Alma Viewer. You might want to have only one option, only the thumbnail view available for the end users, and therefore remove the icon altogether. So we'll show how to do that. But similarly, really, you can do any other action like making some of the text here bold, changing the font, and so on. So first of all, we want to change the color of the header. For that, you can see we have the theme tab on the left. This is really straightforward. You simply open the palette of colors, which we'll see soon, and just select the color which you desire. And that's basically it. And then once you press on apply changes, you will then see it on the right. Again, nothing is permanent yet at this point. It's simply for testing and previewing. You do need to take into account that there are common elements here. If you're working with Primo VE, there are common elements here which you have with general Primo. We're customizing the package for the entire view, which probably means that if you now change your color for the header, we'll change the header for all of Primo VE, and vice versa. If your Primo VE package for that view currently has a different color, then you will see that color, that different color also when you come to customize the viewer on that specific Primo view. So once we select the different color for the header, you can see on the left there are multiple tabs of Primo Studio which allow you to make changes on different levels. You have the images tab here, which allows you to upload a different logo on the top left. And otherwise you have the editor tab. And that allows you to override the CSS, which is the basic CSS is read-only, and you have an option of overriding the CSS. Again, we won't go into too many details now, the technical details of CSS, but you should have personnel in the staff and in your institution who is familiar with CSS editing. Otherwise, you can consult with us. And again, there's documentation about it. And here specifically, we set in display none. In other words, we're removing the sign-in button and the contents button. These all can be retrieved also by inspecting elements on your browser, and that way you can find the different names of the classes of different elements on the screen, and by that way you can know what you want to remove and disable through the CSS editor. Once you have that, once you put in the changes, which here too you can add other types of customizations like font and so on, then you select apply all changes, and you'll then see the change on the right. You'll see the new color on the header, and you'll see that the icons have been removed. And you can continue playing around, and once you're satisfied with the results, and you want to then apply the changes permanently, then you move on to on the left, you could see a download tab. And when you select the download tab, this is what's going to appear for you. Very straightforward. You simply select the download, and that will download a zip file called package.zip to your PC. And there it is. The package is ready for uploading to Alma. So the next stage for Primo VE is going to the configuration of the specific view which we are customizing. And as part of the general customization, we also have upload package. And here we want to upload the package which we just generated through Primo Studio. And at this stage also, the system knows how to identify any discrepancies. If, for example, you customize a different view than the one which is being configured here, then the system will know to shout and give an error. It really is, the system here avoids any mistakes being doing and to changes which are undesired to other views. And then once you upload the package successfully, then any viewer which will be opened on that view will then be customized according to the changes which have been done. We'll just there's a few references here which we'll send, which are included in the presentation. One of them being the Primo Studio for Primo VE, and here you can go and you can see there's a tutorial for Primo Studio. The additional link here is Primo Studio for Classic Primo. And here too, you have the tutorial and other links and explanations of how to apply changes from Primo Studio onto your look and feel. And the last one being also instructions on how to do the same as what we're going to show today, but also for Classic Primo. All of this is available also for Classic Primo. There is a different customization page, configuration page in Alma for doing this, specifically for Classic Primo. But the principles here are the same in all of them. We generate a package and upload it to Alma, just in different locations for Primo VE and for Classic Primo. So now we'll take an example and just see how that works. Here we have, as you can see, I opened this view over here. We have multiple files of different types of video. And here also we can see an indication on the file itself for the full text. So it's a very diverse content we have here in this representation. And this is why we would select this representation for the customization purposes. So we have the option also in the URL just to copy the representation ID, but we don't have to. We can also take it from Alma itself. And what we'll do is, again, change the header ID, and we'll want to remove this icon over here. So we might not want to have necessarily a list like this available for end users. So for that, we will go into Alma, and we will go to the viewer services. And under the configuration of the Alma Viewer, we have a customization tab. So first of all, we want to select the Primo view which we're working on. And you can see that this is a view which I created specifically for the demo. It's called Dan. And here we will select it from the drop-down. And in the representation ID, we will select the representation ID of Freud psychoanalysis, which again is an ID which appears also in the representation resource editor or the representation list under the digital title in Alma. And then we will select generate link, which then created this link over here, open Primo Studio. And this will open the Primo Studio specifically for this Primo view and representation ID with a deep link. Give it a second to load the elements. Here you can see the different tabs which we showed earlier on. Okay, so first of all, we will change the color here. An example, nice green. Just to check it out, we can update the theme over here. This action will allow us to preview the change on the right. Similarly, we can change, there you go, you can see the new nice green color. Otherwise, you can see you've got the secondary and so on, which is for other backgrounds which you have here and other elements on the screen. So this is a very straightforward tab, the theme tab. And then we'll go into the editor. And here we'll paste in the example which we saw earlier on in the presentation. So we're going to be display none. We're going to be removing the display for the sign-in, and we're going to also remove the this icon over here for the contents, for toggling contents between thumbnail and list view. Okay, so now that we've applied that, now the end user has no option to toggle between the two. So again, for those of you who are familiar with CSS, you really have full flexibility of making many different types of changes, sizing of the different panes and so on. That's all customizable here on the CSS. So once we've completed previewing the changes and we're satisfied with the results, then we go back and we go to the download tab and download the package. I'll just first of all remove the previous package. And now we will download the new package over to our PC. So now we have the package ready for the Alma configuration. So back to Alma, we now need to go to the, we want to configure the view, basically the discovery view. So if we go into the configure views, we'll find our view, the Dan view. Here it is, Daniel's view. Edit the view. Manage customization package. And here too, you have the option of uploading the logo file and clickable URLs. You can control the URL when clicking on the logo. That can be done also here. But now we will just upload the package which we just created. And again, if there would be some sort of discrepancy of the views, we would get an error now when we upload. Otherwise, we get a customization file uploaded successfully. Save. And now all the changes have been now applied to the content. So now when we go back to the original viewer, which we were working on, which again is on the Dan view, if we refresh this, we now see the green header, and we see that the elements over here have been removed. And again, any other change which you desire to do through Primo Studio can be done here. And important to understand that the changes here are on the view level, on the entire view, they impact the whole view. You do have options of impact changing elements only for the viewer and without impacting Primo, and vice versa. If you do need consultation for that type of for those types of configurations and technical aspects, take a look at the documentation, and if there's no answers there, then you can reach out to us. And maybe I'll just mention, if I'm already sharing my screen, there is one more nice feature which has been introduced as part of the new Alma Viewer, and that is support in the Alma Viewer, and support for image files, but not for high resolution images. We now have support also for high resolution images such as TIFF and JPEG 2000. They are rendered through a file viewer called OpenSeaDragon, which is based on the IIIF framework. which has got some really cool features. You can really zoom in to very high resolution, similarly to what we had up to now in the Universal Viewer, but now you can deliver also these as part of the new Alma Viewer. You have rotate and lots of nice stuff around that too.
Daniel, something came in here. Is the new viewer also available to summon over Alma sites, or does it rely on Primo?
So the viewer itself, the configuration itself is agnostic to the source system. So in a way also, if you have a standalone link to the digital resource, even not coming from a discovery system, then it will then go through the delivery service and will eventually open it through the Alma Viewer. So it really is not related to the discovery system. It's wherever that link appears to the digital representation, it will then open it through the new Alma Viewer if that's what's configured in Alma. So it would work for Summon and any other discovery system.
Okay, I don't see any other question. Oh, someone asked, does the new viewer do page turning like the other one that we showed way back?
No, the new viewer, it has, this is the paging which you have over here. You can open it, you can open it in full view, in some cases PDFs and so on. So yeah, the scrolling is not the same as the Internet Archive book reader, but this is what you get.
Okay.
And it's also responsive. You can open, there's a responsive design for the new viewer on tablets and an iPhone and so on.
Okay, any other questions or comments from anybody? Okay, so Daniel, do you have anything else to add before we conclude?
No, nothing to, I mean, if we have a minute then to show the full text indication, which was requested earlier on.
We've got 11 minutes.
So if I understand correctly, the full text indication, if we just go to, for example,
the exact question about this says, can you demonstrate the full text indication in Alma? I haven't been able to make it work recently.
So feel free to reach out to us, first of all, if there really is something which worked here and stopped working. Of course, it's something, just open a case and write to me. But the indication, if I understand the question correctly, is when you have open the file list, and one of the files has full text, you would see it over here. That would be the full text indication, which you can also from here, you can change it and edit it. It's also indexed, which means that if you search for full text format, then you can here find all the files which have plain full text or alto full text, which include the coordinates for the search and for the search terms, and allows to search it on the actual highlight the search terms in the image. So these are the two types, and that way it's indexed. You can find the results here. Question.
Okay, so we will be loading the recording of this to the Education and Knowledge Webinars page. We'll be loading a link from the Education and Knowledge Webinars page. The actual recording will be loaded as usual to our LIbris YouTube channel, and we'll update via the Alma list that the recording has been posted. And we hope to see you all in our future sessions. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Bye everyone.